As they drove, there was a strange light in the sky that gave another reason for her to hurry home. At first, it looked like a falling star, but grew larger and brighter with each mile. Barney, an avid plane watcher and World War II vet, was sure that they had nothing to worry about. It's just a satellite, he assured Betty, and it went off course. The light seemed to move with the car as Barney steered down, curving down the mountain road. The light zigged and zagged, ducking past the moon and behind the trees and mountain ridges, only to reappear moments later. Sometimes it seemed to move towards them, in a game of cat and mouse. It seemed to be an illusion. This was reassuring to them. Maybe the car's movement made it seem like the light was too moving. Curiosity overcame them. The couple pulled over at the road stops and picnic turnouts to get a closer look. Through binoculars, Betty saw that the light was really a spinning object in the air. Barney, she told her husband, if you think this is a satellite or star, you're completely ridiculous.
There is a medicine story that tells of Crow's fascination with her own shadow. She kept looking at it, pecking at it until her shadow woke up and became alive. Then Crow's shadow ate her. Crow is dead Crow now. Join us as we attempt to look through the wandering crow's eye to find the gateway to the supernatural, to seek to know the unknowable mysteries of creation. Welcome to the Wandering Crow podcast. Okay. Dear Cameron, so what was that lovely story that you read to us?
My fumbling attempts to get over my dyslexia. But that was the famous case of Betty and Barney Hill. They got abducted back in the 1960s, and this is one of the first cases that is largely regarded as plausible. This was the first case where everybody said, hold on, there's something here.
Mm-hmm. Fun fact, this Betty and Barney Hill story was very widely publicized in the 60s. In the 90s, they made, I think it was made for TV miniseries that aired, I want to say on NBC, I'll have to double check, 5 days before Travis Walton was abducted from here, Arizona. Did you know that?
I didn't.
There is an implication.
I'm going to be honest. Like I said before, I know surprisingly little about that.
Oh yeah. Well, you still think it's in Strawberry, but yeah. So yeah. There's an implication there. What's implied is that the Betty and Barney story is what inspired the quote unquote hoax. So, and because it aired 5 days before, that was what part of what fed into the story and made it so sensational and was part of their clever plan, I guess. I don't know. We will get into that later. So we did promise, dear listener, that we were going to go through the Travis Walton story and dissect it and hopefully add a little something more to it, at least explain to you, in case you've never heard of it, what it is. But we discovered that the Fire in the Sky Travis Walton story is highly collectible. It's $300 for a copy of it. And I've been looking all over in different secondhand bookstores and stuff, and it's just not there. It's really hard to get, and it is in depth, and we kind of want to do some, what did you call it? On the boots? No. Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. Yeah, he wants to actually talk to people, so we're going to postpone that. To be determined. I would like to put a timeline to it, but I'll be real. We're pretty busy, so it's going to take some time. If we're going to do it right, we need to really do it. And that will take time that I don't know that we necessarily can just pop that out in 2 weeks. I don't know. What do you think, Cameron?
And here's the other thing, too. Do we want to go separately and do our own sort of investigations, or...
I don't know. I do know...
Because it'd be pretty rough to try to get it off at the same time.
Yeah. I feel like I want to go through the archives at any of the public libraries and look at the newspaper reportings at the time, and there was apparently some blood work that was taken when he
Yeah.
returned. I'd like to see the blood work. There were some pretty significant claims made about the blood work, and I've been investigating some alternative explanations for what happened. So I have made some progress there. I ruled out a couple of things that I thought might be possible or plausible. So I just think we should take our time, and we should, if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. Let's take our time and do it right. We live right there. Let's do it the right way.
I mean, it really would just be a day trip if we wanted to do several trips. That would be.
It's 2 hours. It's really not that hard. We just have to find the time to go do it. So maybe just plan some weekend trips to go up there and talk to people. But this episode, we are going to kind of lay the groundwork and talk about the overall general phenomenon. Phenomena. I think phenomena is plural.
I think it's phenomena.
Phenomena is plural, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm saying it right. the
phenomena is one of those words where it's the same plural or singular.
Oh, really? Well, because it's definitely.
I think so.
Oh man.
Because it's a categorization of several things, so it's never really just singular.
Yeah, but there is grammatically, there is both a phenomenon and phenomena. Yeah.
Meh.
Phenomena is the plural.
It's all phenomena.
Phenomena is the plural form of phenomenon. So if like a singular event occurs, it's a phenomenon. If it's multiple events, it's a phenomena. So there we go. Phenomena.
I also want to say too that I think it's very peculiar that most of these credible abduction cases happen after 1945 to 1959.
Well, have you heard of a show called Ancient Aliens?
Yeah, but this one's a little... The ones that are happening these days are that wide resurgence of abductions that happen were after that time period.
But, I mean, there's like an entire 20-year-long series that chronicles the many myriad possible alien interactions and abductions and stuff that happened throughout history preceding 1945.
History.
Yeah, so...
But how many were happening in, like, the 1900s?
I don't know.
Like, within that window there. Or 1800s.
I mean...
Seems like there's a big gap there between ancient aliens and modern times.
I don't know. I feel like there is probably, and maybe this is something we can look into over time and revisit this topic. I feel like, and as we get into this, I'm going to talk about it probably a little more. I think it's possible that we are dealing with... phenomena that were previously categorized differently because there was no notion of extraterrestrials in the 1900s and 1800s. But there was a lot of angels and demons and fae folk, and all of this stuff maybe was interpreted differently based on the culture of the time. And the vocabulary and the known, what is the word? What does Michel Foucault call it? The episteme of the day. As we have advanced in technology, our ideas have advanced, so too has our perception and the way that we sort of decode these experiences. I think the experiences were always happening, but I think the way that we decode it and apply language to it has changed over the years. What do you think of that?
Eloquently put, and it's a good idea, but I still disagree.
Why?
I feel like...
I'm right, damn you.
I have a notion that could actually explain away many of these abductions, if not all.
All right.
And that institute, what is it called? MABON. MUFON, yes. I hate them.
Mutual UFO Network, for those of you who don't know.
I feel like that's a psyop.
Oh, really?
I do. I think that they're burying what little might actually be real UFO studies.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's.
It's an avalanche of information to bury what little needles in the haystack might actually be there.
You know, I will agree with you. There are some easily like 40 tabs open on my computer right now, and about a half a billion little links to different articles and things that I thought were interesting. That there's so much information out there. But the really interesting part to me is it does seem as though like firsthand personal accounts are behind, it feels a little bit like they're behind a paywall. If I want to get to people actually talking about their own personal experiences, I have to pay somebody money for that. And I am wondering if that's...
I would say that that would be more believable.
Yeah.
If they were privately funded that way. That actually does I would feel that it gives them more credit.
Mm-hmm.
They have to pay for it somehow. And if it's not through the government, then why not?
Yeah.
So in my mind, that actually makes it a little bit better. But like, that's how I would do it if I were to start an organization that way.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading a book written by one of these guys. He's like the CEO of MUFON, and he has some... I need to finish the book, but it seemed like he has tied together religious significance to these UFO visitations. It's very interesting. I'll need to finish the book, but here's okay. So here's how I had wanted to approach this story and had started to get into it. I started to look really local. You know, how many UFO sightings are there in Arizona specific to the location where Travis Walton was abducted? And that information is out there, but it's hard to locate in a way that's already usable. So there are people have Google Maps out there with dropped pins. MUFON collects all of these things and apparently is doing data sets and collecting and creating maps. Like all of the really big maps that are out there, a lot of them come from MUFON or, oh God, what's the other one? There's MUFON and then
just old-minded and don't like change.
There is like a sister. No, there's like a sister organization to MUFON, and I can't remember the name of it. And they also do some of the some data collecting, and I can't find it right now. I'm really annoyed with myself. But it did seem like, they are funded that way. But so where I got with that is that there's all of these data points. It's hard to get the actual like things that I could personally use. Like I just was able to see a map, but there weren't like the dates associated with the sightings. I wasn't able to find like who reported the sightings. Like I couldn't get the firsthand accounts to the sightings. Like there's a lot of information out there where if you have those data points and you've collected that data, there's other information associated with that data point, and I couldn't get the other information associated with the data points. And I just didn't have very much time to do that. I'm sure it's out there, but I'm also fairly certain that I'm going to have to pay somebody money for that. And that's very frustrating that everything is monetized. I don't really like how that has changed. But that's not just with UFO stuff, and also I'm discovering cryptids. That's also with all of these other things. I'm a little bit older. I'm 40-ish. I don't remember. I think I'm turning 41 this year. And I remember a time when the internet was young, when everything was free. Did you just say lame?
I said same.
Oh,
I don't really remember my age either. 30-something.
I thought you called me lame, and I was about to get in your face, sir.
Boomer.
That felt like fighting words. I'm just saying. But when I was younger, everything used to be free, and when I wanted to do crochet patterns, it was just free. Everybody gave stuff away for free. You had a pattern, and you just posted it. Boom. And now you can't get a damn thing, even if it sucks, without paying money for it, and that's really obnoxious. I guess, I can't begrudge people having their side hustle and doing what they can to fund themselves, that I like that, but I really hate that I have to pay for everything. So, but
everything's a microtransaction.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
maybe you should pay for like a subscription and then get all of it for free at that point.
I wish that would be nice. But okay. Mm-hmm. So when I was searching, the first thing that I came to, the one thing that I am actually not in agreement was aliens. Super famous. What is Arizona famous for in the world of UFOlogy? Well, Travis Walton. Can you think of another one, Cameron? There's a really
Phoenix
big
Lights.
one. Yeah, Phoenix Lights. That was everywhere. Easy. And I've actually gotten into debates with people in the streets about the Phoenix Lights. So I'm not going to talk a heck of a lot about this part of it, but I am former Air Force. And that's, I don't want to get too much more into what I did in the military, but I am former Air Force. And I know an awful lot about aircraft and how flares work. And I noted, even back in that day, there was a second Phoenix Light. So there was two different Phoenix Lights that happened. There was one that happened in the early 90s, and then there was another one that happened in the 2000s, possibly, I don't remember exactly what date, but maybe like 2012. It happened, I was still in the military at that time, and I knew exactly what it was. I knew the operation, I knew what we were doing, I knew what kind of flares we used, like I understood what was happening, and all around me were hundreds of people and all of these news stories about the Phoenix Lights, the aliens are back. And what killed me is people were claiming, okay, so I'm going to back up a little bit. So the Phoenix Lights, in case you don't know, in the the late 90s, in 1997, some strange lights in the sky were actually seen in Nevada and traveled more than 300 miles before finally being seen in Phoenix, Arizona. And it was a spectacle. Thousands of people in Phoenix, Arizona saw these lights and believed that they were seeing a massive, massive hovering aircraft. And there were a couple of different things that were going on. There were aircraft that were flying over at a faster speed. And there were these series of lights that would appear in sequence. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just to kind of give you a little auditory sort of. So one would appear, and then, I don't even know, in a distance away, but on the same kind of plane, a second one would appear, and then another distance away, a third one would appear, and then another distance away, a fourth would appear, and so on and so on. And they were turning on in this sequence. And then once they were on, they stayed on, and they pretty much stayed what appeared to be at the same altitude, just hanging out in that area for a while before finally de-illuminating, before finally turning off, right? So people looked at that, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't even know how many series of lights, and thought it was one gigantic aircraft, one big triangular shaped aircraft in the sky. And the military came out and said, no, no, that's a special kind of flare. It's a kind of flare that actually doesn't fall very quickly. It's intended to sort of suspend in air for a lot longer. And we deploy them in a certain pattern, and it helps us with our targeting missions so that when we're bombing stuff, we're not bombing the wrong thing. We bomb the right thing, and it helps us with our targeting. And people heard that and immediately said, it's a government conspiracy. This is a bunch of bullshit. I know what I saw. That was an aircraft. But I saw it too. And it was very clearly flares. It's flares. There's a special kind of flare that does that. And it's for targeting. It's so that we minimize collateral damage. And I have gotten into arguments with, at the time, I'm married now, but at the time, potentially thinking about dating people, and they would start talking to me about the Phoenix Lights and the aliens, and I would say, no, that's not what that was. And then it would be like, game over. No more relationship, because I was not a believer at that point. But, and I find it interesting because MUFON has, they call it the UFO Congress. They've had talks. They constantly bring up the Phoenix Lights. They talk about what it was, and it's been pretty thoroughly debunked as far as I can tell. Like a pretty nice scholarly article was written about it. The military has said, it's got a name. Here's the aircraft that we're flying. it's this special kind of flare. This is what this was for. This is why we do this exercise. And people are saying, no, it was a cover-up. Those were definitely alien craft. But like, I feel like this is one, and it's an important event. This is one, the Phoenix Lights get pointed to a lot as like a really significant event to point to real, actual alien visitation. And that right there is like, I am not personally very strongly a proponent of the all UFOs are aliens camp. Like, I can't get there because of how I saw things go down with the Phoenix Lights. Because being on the military side and having a clear understanding of the technical aspect of it and hearing people say, you guys are full of shit, you're lying, that made it very difficult for me. Like, I'm a lot more skeptical when people are saying government cover-up. I'm like, no, because I've been on the other side of that. Like, I know they're not always government cover-up. You just don't like what you're hearing. I don't know. What do you think about all of that?
I haven't seen many videos of the Phoenix Lights. So the newest one was 1997, right? 1997.
No, the first one was 97, and then there was another one that happened because it was 20 years ago that the first one happened. Oh, well, more than 20 years ago at this point. We're going on 25 now?
I swear I thought I saw a video of the more famous Phoenix Lights where it was like the V-shaped craft, and I could have swore I saw it, and it did look like it was blocking out some stars. But I don't know, because I know what you're talking about, where there's one light and then it slowly dims out and there's another light.
No.
Another light.
No, they will stay on at the same time. So they're deployed pretty close together, not exactly at the same time. Like, there is a separation of how they're deployed. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then whatever number of series. And they all stay on for a period of time. It's very important that all the flares stay on for a while until the bombing is complete. And then eventually they will flare out. Like, they'll sputter out and die one at a time. But they all do. They don't, like, one turns on and then the second one turns on, the first one turns off. It's not like that. So when I see that, I think, that's interesting. That maybe, because that's not a flare at that point, probably. It could be, but that's not the way that the flares work that I know of. But when they turn on and they stay on for a while, like they turn on kind of in a sequence and they stay on for a while and then sort of dim out kind of in a sequence after a certain period of time has passed, I have a strong suspicion that a lot of those are flares.
Because I'm leaning towards a lot of these happening after 1960 could have easily been part of Project Paperclip.
Tell me more.
Did you know that...
What is Paperclip?
The German scientists... Project Paperclip is when World War II ended and we actually gave the German scientists some sort of... what is that called? Plea bargain, I guess?
Amnesty?
Well, they were exonerated of all their crimes.
Yeah.
Including war crimes, if they would come work for us. And eventually that led to NASA and like all those great things.
Yep.
But did you know that the German scientists were working on a mercury vortex engine?
I've heard of that. Tell me more about that. I remember hearing about that at some point.
So what I saw on this is mercury vortex engines are some sort of liquid air, is what they say, heated up with a mercury dynamo that is charged, because once you apply a charge to mercury, it actually spirals. It starts spinning.
That's cool.
And this can lead to some sort of levitational effect.
Like a magnet.
They say anti-gravity.
Interesting.
But I would say levitation, because if it's true anti-gravity, you have no control. It just has nothing and it just floats.
Okay.
But, so the idea is you get this mercury spinning and it creates sort of an energy dynamo and it creates some sort of levitation proportional effect. And its smell is ionizing. So in a lot of these abduction cases, they say they can smell ozone.
Mm-hmm.
And that stands out to a lot of people because, like, oh, hey, that's really weird. Maybe that's some sort of alien tech. Well, Mercury engines can do the same thing. And they do produce the crazy pale blue glow that a lot of people experience.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so that has been going on since 1950.
Okay.
And they used hard water in Germany instead of liquid air. So there were like reports of entire trains just full of hard water being shipped over with mercury to these research facilities. And that's what they were working on.
When you say
There's also these weird
hard water, do you mean like in Arizona we have a really hard water and we need water softeners so that to take some of the minerals out and whatever? What do you mean by hard water? Is that what you mean?
Mineral rich water.
Oh, okay.
And my theory on that is because, well, what happens when you evaporate the water?
You've got all the minerals left.
Yeah, well, so you get the minerals left, but when you, through electrolysis, you can turn purified water into hydrogen and oxygen.
Okay.
Creating air. Well, what if you do that to hard water? It's a better representation of air. So I think they were using the hard water as their air, quote unquote, and they were creating these vortex engines. I don't know enough about it to really go into the science.
Yeah.
I will not approach it from that way.
Yeah.
But, I think that many of these crafts are things that we've been playing with for over 70 years. And that maybe now, in order to experiment with it more, they're coming out with these MUFON and whatnot to give people the idea that, oh, yes, no, these are aliens. This is totally not us doing this.
Okay, so, all right. First of all, listener, I want you to understand, I personally do believe that the alien abduction phenomenon, a percentage of those stories may be real. I think it's possible. I think a larger percentage of those stories may be spirit interaction, like trickster spirit interaction. And I think an even greater percentage of those stories can be explained away by implanted memory with regression. There are some theories about sleep paralysis. There's a lot of really interesting theories to explain the majority of alien abduction cases. But I do believe personally that they are rare. I think the vast majority of cases are something else. So that's where I'm approaching this from. Cameron, are you saying that you believe all UFO and UAP craft are government make? Or, do you believe there's any possibility any of it's real?
It might be.
Yeah. You're not closing the door on that?
Like you're saying it's probably rare that it's actually like aliens or time travelers or whatever people believe these days.
Mm-hmm.
But I think mostly a lot of these are probably government experimentation.
On citizens?
And I'm not even saying that the people aren't being abducted. Maybe they are. We're talking about Nazi scientists who had no qualms about experimenting on people.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
And they were hired onto the higher echelons, many of them in leadership roles in these institutions that operated in the shadows and still do to this day.
To this day, yeah.
After the war ended, we were snatching up Kraut scientists like hotcakes. You don't believe me? Walk into NASA sometime and yell Heil Hitler. Whoop! They all jump straight up.
Here's an interesting kind of corroboration with your theory. I'm sort of with you, but not 100% quite. So I think most of us listening to this and talking here in this situation, remember or know about this UFO disclosure bill that passed in Congress just last year in December. Have you heard about that, Cameron?
Yes.
So, it's There has been a
Wasn't
push.
it like part of the Freedom of Information Act where it's like an extension of that?
I could not comment. I really don't know. I haven't been paying that much attention, to be perfectly honest. UFOs are not super my jam. I do think it's super interesting. I think it's very interesting. But I would agree with you. I suspect there's a little bit of a PSYOP thing going on here. So we have this UFO disclosure bill. The Congress is demanding that any studies on UFOs that the Pentagon has collected, any information pertaining to alien craft and quote-unquote alien biologics is released to the government and made public. But that bill was actually amended. So now the Pentagon has a great deal more power and authority to claim that certain sections of, disclosure could endanger national security, and therefore if they view it to be a threat to national security, they don't have to disclose. Like the original bill had a lot more way more teeth. Like it was a lot stronger, but there was a lot of pushback, no national security, blah blah blah. So now there's a lot that the Pentagon controls about what they actually get to disclose. And it all followed, what was his name? Grush, I want to say. This gentleman claims to be a whistleblower and has started talking about all of this crazy stuff that's supposedly going on behind closed doors in our government. Talking about the recovery.
Let me butt in here just for a second as like a backdrop. $6 trillion of American debt went missing.
Gone.
In the military funds.
No trace. Just gone. Yep.
I think that has something to do with it, but continue.
Well, this guy Grush came forward and said, he came forward as a whistleblower and said, we have required quote unquote biologics. We have been reverse engineering craft that were discovered. There's a lot that's going on that people don't know about. And there's been a lot of speculation within the UFO community about what this means. And a lot of speculation about our government being in cahoots with alien beings and allowing some percentage of experimentation on our citizens. I also have noticed there seems to be a greater percentage of military released sightings. These to me have the greatest measure of credibility because I do feel like the average everyday person who's not a flyer and is not involved in military stuff and doesn't know what tech is actually out there, like if it's not their thing, they don't see it all the time, they're not familiar, they don't realize that such things exist, they're going to see stuff that's actually explainable and say that's a UFO. But an actual Navy pilot or Air Force pilot who is deeply familiar with their operational systems and what the aircraft can do and the armament and the sensors, they're going to be able, I would trust them more to say, I don't know what that thing is, because they are in a position to know more than the average person. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be able to recognize more and say, that's probably this thing, that's probably that thing. So when a pilot stands up and says, I saw this, I don't know what it is, that makes me take notice.
Sort of like in the last episode, how we had that pilot who saw the giant snake.
Yes.
That has more credibility than some guy that's just looking at the picture. Oh, no, that's a baby. No.
Right.
This guy is a pilot. He's really good at judging the height and length of things.
I also, in that situation, I also would really stand up and take notice if it was a biologist or a noted paleontologist. You know what I mean? Like someone in that field who really knows a lot about that particular topic.
Because to experience,
yeah, I'm willing to trust, because even myself, I'm a gardener. I'm an avid gardener. I know a lot about bugs, and I know a lot about plants. I've noticed sometimes people will say stuff or make paranormal claims about things, and I can just look at it and say, no, that's not paranormal. That's a bug. Or no, that's not paranormal. That's totally normal. That happens sometimes. Like there's one paranormal clip of trees, and it looks like the forest is breathing because the ground is sort of pulsing, like moving up and then down and then up and then down and up and then down. And it was shown in Paranormal Caught on Camera as like this paranormal activity. the ground is breathing, something crazy is going on here. And I looked at it and immediately knew, no, that is a really powerful windstorm. We just don't see the stormy part of it. Like, it's a lot of strong wind blowing these trees around. That is the trees' roots in the ground holding on to the soil for dear life. Like, that is, like, I knew immediately that's what that was. Yeah. But other people who are not as familiar, I love those videos. And other people who are not as familiar with the phenomenon would say that's paranormal because they've never seen it before and they don't know how to explain it. So same thing goes with these military things. So I've got, there's some really cool ones. This one, I'm going to copy this and send this to you, is a clip from the Middle East that definitely makes me stand up and take notice. I'm going to open this up. So when you open up this clip,
if you want to like break, oh wait, that did it.
Okay.
That's a clickable link.
So click on that and then scroll down. It's not the first video. That one's just the news story. Scroll down to the second one.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
It literally looks like an aerial video.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Come through the top of the screen.
Boom. Did you see that?
It's got an ad.
See it pop in and out of the screen.
Skip ad.
This is essentially all of the data we have associated with this event from some years ago.
I love that one. Have you been able to see it yet?
See it come.
No. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Like a beach ball floating through the sky.
Right. So
high velocity.
It definitely looks like the Middle East. It could be Afghanistan. It's unclear exactly where it is, but it appears to be a desert encampment. And then this spherical object, which appears to be, based on the scale of the other objects around it, fairly small. Probably about drone-shaped. Just zooms through the sky. And this anomalous object, they're calling it a UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, and it is very interesting. I've never seen a drone that looks like that before, not to say that I've seen all drones. There's not aircraft that we've seen like that before, and the military is saying we don't really know what this is yet. And then, of course, there's the very famous Nimitz Tic Tac. Have you seen the Tic Tac?
I know about Tic Tac.
So
it's like an aerial maneuver.
No, so there is this, so they're calling it the Tic Tac because it looks like about the size and shape of a Tic Tac, this object that they've found. And it was over the USS Nimitz, or in the vicinity of the USS Nimitz, which is a naval warship. And they caught on their... Somehow, someone took a recording of this thing, and I don't know if it was a heads-up display of one of the jets. I'm not exactly sure. I think it was from a jet. They were doing some maneuvers, and they noticed this UAP. And they focused in on it, and it's zooming along like crazy. Then it sort of submerges. It dives into the water, goes under the water for a while, and then comes back up. Like, they notice it going in and out of the water a couple of times before they finally lose it. And that one's also very famous. That's really one of the more important, like, UAP videos that's in existence right now. It gets talked about a lot. It's a very big deal. And because it was the Navy who spotted it, and it's the Navy who is unable to say, they don't know what it is. So we've got all of these things coming out. And what do we know about UFO phenomenon? What do we know about the way people are treated when they say they've seen a UFO? Can you tell me? What is your perception?
I believe in my last episode I said it feels like they're crackpots.
Yes. More than half of the articles that I tried to open up regarding UFOs were something along the line of UFOs, not just for kooks anymore. I think that was the Economist that had a story like that. Then there was another one, I think it was Bloomberg, that had a report, how considerate of aliens to only show up in the evening when you're drinking your beer and, Friday night when you're off to the club. And thank goodness they don't show up over cities. Yeah. So it was all very, like, they're looking at the statistical data that exists. And yes, most UFO sightings are in the evenings, on the weekends, in those peak hours when a lot of people might be enjoying a beverage or something. But it fails to take...
They look at the effect of people being able to see these things as an explanation. Oh, well, you were just drunk.
Yes, exactly.
How many times are you outside looking at the sky in the daytime?
Never, because
Plus,
we're all
if they
working.
really are reflective, how likely are you to actually see this thing?
Exactly. When is the most likely time to actually see something? At night, when you have leisure time to actually be looking at the sky. That doesn't happen during the week because we live a very highly stressed out, timed to the minute lifestyle. Nobody has time to be looking. I mean, I say nobody. Obviously, I shouldn't, what's the word? I shouldn't speak in absolutes, but most people don't have opportunities to just go out and go stargazing, So they take that data and they twist it to say, well, it's just drunk people, it's just drunk people with free time on their hands. So here's what I think.
There was this.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, there was this one video that I saw of everybody was out looking at a solar eclipse. And when the eclipse happened, all of a sudden you see these shiny objects flying around in the sky. It's because you can't see them in the daylight.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the other thing. Everybody was looking up at the sky.
Yeah. Everybody was in a position where they were able to notice, right? And most of the time, we're not in a situation where we can notice. So I think that what has happened, here is Amanda's theory of the UFO disclosure and this new push to quote unquote, destigmatize the UFO sightings, I suspect, because we do know there have been, there was a release, Project Blue Book happened, and we know that there were some follow-on studies where the Pentagon and the CIA, maybe not the CIA, have actually been tracking UFO phenomenon and sightings and trying to debunk what they are and mostly identify what they are, and this for the sake of national security, right? And there are, 95% of the time, they know what it is. They're able to figure out what it is and they can classify it. It was this thing. It was a weather balloon. It was this blimp. It was whatever thing is in the sky. But there are 5% of cases, and actually a fairly significant number of cases, that even the government has said, we don't truly know what that is. And I think from a security perspective, that's a really big deal. That is a huge threat to not know what's in your skies at any given time, to have several hundred objects floating around in your skies and not know what they are or where they originate. My theory is, I believe that what happened was it became stigmatized and truly, credible sources who were actually seeing things stopped reporting because they didn't want to lose their credibility because it is so highly stigmatized, right? So they were genuinely seeing things they were not reporting. And I think someone somewhere in the government realized we are missing a huge opportunity to be collecting data. We are, it's a known part of intelligence gathering to utilize what's called human intelligence and ground intelligence and utilize actual citizens this way. And this happens in countries all over the world where you have eyes on sight. You've got real people on the ground looking at the skies because sometimes there's stuff out there that can defeat our early warning systems, a variety of different ones. And sometimes it's the lowest tech stuff that actually can get through some of the high tech security defense type stuff. So my theory is, just because of my background, we lost that aspect. The reports that were coming through were the truly non-credible ones who were reporting all kinds of stuff that maybe either was just misunderstood because they're so excited about UFOs and was mislabeled, And I think that they're trying to reestablish these good ground sightings, this good network of human observers who can report things that are anomalous in the skies. So, and to increase the defenses, because I suspect that a significant portion of these things that are unexplained, I think there's a chance that they are actually it's enemy tech. And I say enemy, it's tech from other countries that we're not, super buddy with, who do pose a kind of a security threat against us. And some of these maps that exist in the world, the highest incidence of UFO sightings is by and large the United States of America. I mean, it is ridiculous. Hundreds of times greater number of sightings in the USA than exist anywhere else in the world. But that doesn't mean that those sightings aren't happening in other places in the world, which is sometimes how it's portrayed in media. It's a what do they say? It's a predominantly USA phenomena, they say. So implying that only Americans see UFOs, but that's not the case. There are actually these really great maps, and Fox News has one, where they've been able to kind of correlate UFO sightings with places where we have nuclear reactors and sightings in places where there are military conflicts. And to me, that's a really big red flag. If we can just stick with and play devil's advocate and say that this is human, then that's a really big deal, because someone out there is being able to gather a ton of intelligence and has managed to find a way to get aircraft over our skies. So now we've got this really big hole in our security defenses. And I suspect that's why there's this big push, is that they're looking to kind of capitalize on human observers to get more people reporting so they can gather more data. And the more data they can gather, the better able they're going to be to figure out what it is and close that loop, close that hole in the security defense. That's my idea.
So MUFON is government run.
I don't think MUFON is. I mean, maybe. There are some ideas out there. I feel like I've heard Belief Hole talk about that there is this idea that some of these people could be part of like a PSYOP operation. I don't know. I really don't know enough about it. I do think that there are genuine believers. I mean, MUFON is a pretty large organization. And I think that...
like you said, these ex-military people do lend quite a bit of credibility. Yeah. It's just suspicious that so many of them are at the top of MUFON.
How many ex-military...
When they first came out, there were people that immediately jumped on the bandwagon of saying that MUFON is a conspiracy. And they came out with this flowchart. I don't know if I can find it.
Yeah, that would be really great.
We were covering this topic.
Because if we're making an assertion, we need to back up our claims.
Of MUFON and their government ties.
Interesting.
Well, you can continue. I'm going to keep looking up this.
Okay. I think that was my main point. I do hold out this piece of my soul that wants to believe in magic and wants to believe in the incredible. And I do think that there are some accounts that are very compelling. And I do absolutely think it's possible that there are organisms living in our atmosphere that we haven't discovered yet. I think that's entirely possible. I do think it's possible. I do have some sense of feeling like breakaway civilizations maybe are possible, and they're living in the Earth's oceans, and they have more advanced technology than we have. There's a lot of really interesting ideas out there, and I'd like to get into that at some point. But I do want to say to any listeners out there who absolutely believe in UFOs, please don't leave us. I believe it's possible, but I think what I'm saying is I think in the majority of cases it's explainable. And what that does for me is makes those unexplainable cases that much more precious, that much more interesting and compelling and fascinating. Because when you have truly done the groundwork and really ruled out all of the possibilities that exist, and you still don't know when something is, that's when you are left with really incredible possibilities. That's what opens the door to these things being real. So I think it's important to do the due diligence. It's important to understand what's out there technology-wise so that we can have a little bit of discernment and really identify those things that are real. I actually have a story. This one was kind of compelling, and I like these kinds of stories because a lot of times people are able to recover implants from the body. What do you think about alien implants? There's a lot of people who are saying they have an alien implants in their body. How do you explain that?
I think some of those actually do have like basis in human tech. Like the strange little black chips that seem to give off a like RFID
Mm-hmm. Those are interesting.
sort of reading.
Yeah.
But they can't make out what metals they're from. I don't know if they're really trying that hard.
I love those, and I wish there were more studies on that. I was reading some article that was saying, it was the History Network. The History Network had reached out to, or claims anyway, in one of their articles, that they had reached out to a big deal ufologist and said, hey, we will pay for testing. We will pay for analysis. We want to hear your story. Tell us. We want to know what's going on. And
this link is different. Don't worry about that.
Oh,
Just,
not that one?
Read it on your own time.
Okay. And apparently this ufologist and I guess a couple, they made the implication that they had spoken to a couple of different ufologists about this. Once they made the offer to do scientific analysis of the artifacts and the implants and what evidence does exist out there, the History Network asserts that the ufologist would often backpedal and say things like, well, it's really not the physical evidence that's the most compelling. It has more to do with the human stories and the emotional component. Those are the most interesting parts, and those are the most I don't want to say compelling, but those are the pieces of evidence that matter the most. Basically, the History Network was implying, and I believe it was, I'll see if I can find that link. It was the History Network was implying, we've offered this physical evidence can't possibly be real because once we made the offer, they retracted the importance of these objects. They said that they weren't that important, which implies that the objects aren't real, that they wouldn't stand up to rigorous scientific testing. But I don't know that I believe that account because I still think it's so deeply stigmatized, and I'm not sure that I would trust that I'd get my artifacts back. I would need to be there every step of the way to make sure that the provenance stays intact and that what I get back is what I actually gave. You know what I mean? Something like that is just so precious. I would not just hand it over to anybody. But I have this really interesting, I have a couple that are really good that I really liked. So these are from Reddit because Reddit is like the best free source place to get these stories. This one is from Reddit user Bad Early 9278. I love this one. He or she says, I have no story. No memory of it. I had an MRI and my doc asked me when I had back surgery. I've never had a single surgery in my life. He, a Harvard graduate and neurosurgeon, said, I definitely have had some kind of surgery given the massive scar tissue along my spine. I told him that's where the probe went when I got abducted. He became oddly more serious and wasn't indicating that I was joking at all, meaning that Bad Early was making a joke or attempting to make a joke. But instead of laughing, the doctor actually got more serious. He looked at the film a bit longer and seemed to study them deeper this time and then said, quote, I'd bet my education that you have scar tissue from surgery, end quote. So, no real story. I still have the scars as per my last MRI, though. That's it. That's the account. Nothing?
Well, I sent you a link on FBI files.
Ooh. Is that what this is?
That's what that is.
Ooh!
On flying saucers.
Neat.
I haven't read it yet, but it does look interesting. I can't find anything about the MUFON, like their original directors. That was the original, here's the smoking gun. These people all used to work for the government.
Yeah.
I can't find that.
So these FBI files are what? Just FBI files of cases, like real life X files, or what are these?
It looks like they were reaching out for funding. They were looking for funding to try to investigate these UFO phenomena since 1960. A lot of it is still redacted.
Some of these clearly are names that have been redacted.
This person says that they were in the flying saucer game for 30 years, and that was in 1960. So that kind of shoots my thing out of the water.
Interesting. So here's one.
So this person would have been labeled as a ufologist at that point for 30 years in 1960. April 17th, 1960.
So this gentleman, his name is Joseph Perry. He evidently received a slide from Selfridge Air Force Base in Mount Clemens, Michigan, and this was in 1960. The slide is the property of Mr. Joe Perry, and Perry had claimed that the slide contained a photograph of the moon and that it showed what appeared to be a flying object somewhere in the vicinity of the moon. Blank said, when the Air Force returned, what appears to be the flying object in this slide is actually a part of the negative which was not properly developed. So it's redacted, the name, but someone says that I guess the Air Force gave Mr. Perry this slide, and they gave him a letter explaining that that flying object is actually just an issue with the development. This person whose name has been redacted says he told the Detroit Times that he does not believe this story, as he knows that Joe Perry is very meticulous when he develops pictures. Therefore, he feels the slide actually does contain a picture of a flying object, and that he intends to obtain this slide and forward it to the East Kodak Company for further analysis. East Kodak was a big deal on film back then. I don't know if they're still around or not. So here we have another story about evidence that they have an explanation for, a military government organization has an explanation for, and the explanation is rejected. Now, I do think it's hard for me to just say, well, this guy's obviously a nut job because here's this explanation, because I do think that it's possible. Sometimes explanations are just convenient excuses and really don't add up. And I don't know enough about what this is referring to. I wish I could see the slide. But it's another he said, she said kind of situation. And it's really hard to build a foundation of substance on he said, she said. And that's basically, I feel like, what we've got in the UFO world right now. It's a he said, she said of government versus citizens is kind of what it feels like. But what did you think of my story? You didn't react, like, at all. Did you even, were you, like, super distracted? Did you hear it?
I was a bit distracted. I was still looking for MUFON, sorry.
All right, so the story is this guy, I'm
going to stop looking for MUFON.
He doesn't have any memories of any kind of abduction. It doesn't sound like a real big believer. He went to his doctor, and his doctor did MRIs of the spine, and the doctor said, when did you have surgery? And the guy's like, I've never had surgery, not any kind of surgery. And the doctor's like, no, you definitely had surgery. Look at this. There's a lot of scar tissue here. And the guy's like, oh, that's where the probe went when I was abducted by aliens. He was just making a joke, and the doctor took it serious and actually looked closer at the MRI and said, look, I'd bet my education you definitely had surgery on your back, and left it at that. Mic drop. That's it. That's the end of the story. What do you think of that? That's crazy to me. I wish I could see the MRI.
Crazy.
Like, that was
but
a person.
I don't know that that's aliens or experimentation.
I don't know. Like,
could be alien experimentation, but
yeah,
that's the problem.
I mean, there's too much that we're never going to know. Here's another one.
You either take it at face value or you're a skeptic to the end, because it could always be people.
Yeah, it could be people. I just, a lot of these stories have time slips, though, and that's hard for me to just sort of...
I will say that the shared time slips, that's odd. Because even if you were going to give somebody a time slip, like via drugs, Rufinol, whatever,
which is possible. It wouldn't be shared. You'd have to inject both and somehow erase their memory of being injected. So here's a story. This is a group time slip. This is from a Reddit user, Varying Opinions. Says, coming back from ice fishing the last day of the year to have ice houses on the lake. My father, sister, and I were in his truck, and his friend was towing the ice house. We were coming around the corner, and his friend was a little way back. I remember watching his headlights disappear around the corner in the passenger mirror. A few seconds later, I looked at the little intake a lot of vehicles had in the 80s and 90s. You could pull a lever and get some, quote, fresh airflow. I looked at that and thought everything was glowing. Like I could see all the melting snow on the floor and all around the floor where my feet were. I thought it was crazy bizarre. So I looked up to my father to tell him, and he was looking straight forward, white-knuckling the steering wheel. All around the vehicle there was a white light. Not really blinding bright, but like all the windows were frosted and it was daylight out. I kind of shouted, maybe more concerned than anything, "Dad?" I said this a few times, and then the light disappeared. And we were stopped just around the corner where his friend's headlights had disappeared. He looked shocked and said, I think we lost our friend. Let's turn around here and see what happened. We turned around at a field approach right after the corner and drove 5 minutes back to the lake, and his friend wasn't there. Then we drove back home, and his friend was there. The ice house was already backed into the spot next to our garage, and his friend seemed worried. The ice house was big and hard to back into the little spot with just one person, and Ron was already had it in place, jacked up on blocks. He said he was coming to look for us since we were almost an hour late. Traveling back to the lake to look for his friend was only a 10-minute drive round trip. Pretty sure we all got abducted that night. So, okay, for those of you who didn't catch it, this family was actually in the lead of the caravan. The friend with the ice house was behind them. And this kid notices that the headlights sort of wink out right at the exact same time that everything around them lights up. And then it's over, and they turn around and look, and their friend's not there, so they think something must have happened. Let's go back and get him. They make it back to where they started. Friend is not there. Then they go back to the destination, and by the time they get there, the friend is there. So the friend that was behind them somehow passed them without them ever noticing, and they were missing for a full hour. That's fascinating because there's no claim of seeing aliens. There's no claim of any kind of spaceship or anything, just this really bright light and a whole hour missing. I love these kinds of stories.
I told you about that, but me and my friends had that time slip.
Yes, I would like for you to tell that story again. I didn't really take you seriously then. You were so young, and I just didn't know what to make of that.
So we were going to go to the junkyard that's over off of Rye, Arizona, and it was still bright out. You know, we drove a few hours, and by the time we were headed back, because we kind of realized by the time we got there it was closed, we turned around, we started driving back, and we were just passing the Radisson Motel, which I think is now called Weekapa.
Oh, and then Fort McDonald Reservation. Okay, yeah.
That's like 5-10 minutes away from the turnoff to get back to Fountain Hills.
Yeah.
We see a silver ball up in the sky. It didn't look like a UFO. It just looked like a silver ball. We're kind of like, what is that?
Like a weird balloon.
And we look back down. I was driving. And we never veered out of the lines. Nothing panicked us. And then we realize, what the fuck? It looks like we've gone too far, but how would that even be possible? It took us 30 minutes to turn around and get back to where we were going. So we lost, 25 minutes?
Where did you end up that you had to turn around?
We ended up having to turn around over at Gilbert and the 87.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, listeners,
and we didn't see any traffic lights.
No, because there are none. So there
is one at the turnoff for Fountain Hills.
There's two for the whole drive. There's the one at Fountain Hills, and then there's the one at the garbage dump. So, and you didn't see any?
Nope.
Wow.
Gilbert Road is the garbage dump.
No. Oh, yeah,
so
you're right. You're right.
We didn't see the first set of lights.
Because there's a third one that is at the
no
freeway. Okay. So, listener. So they're up at Rye, which is less than an hour away from Heber. Okay. Remember we were talking about Travis Walton and where he was abducted? It's in that area. It's up in the mountains. It's sort of halfway between. And Rye is tiny. There's like almost nothing at Rye. I can't even believe that you were going to Rye. And so there's a road called the US 60, Highway 60. It's also known as the Beeline. And it's a straight shot. There's no turns. There's nothing. You just take this straight highway all the way down to where you need to go. And there's bright lights. You know, you pass. So you were talking about the Radisson. So there's a big casino right there with a a hotel. And then less than 5 minutes from that is an area with a bunch of fast food, and it's brightly lit. So there's a Wendy's there, a Taco Bell, and I want to say a Burger King or a McDonald's. I don't remember, but there's 3 restaurants right there. Oh, it's Arby's. Yeah, you're right. And then on the other side is a gas station and another hotel, and I think there's like an RV place now. But at the time, there was just these businesses. And it's a big light. It is a very big, prominent intersection. It's where a lot of accidents happen, so it's well lit, and there's no missing it. Like, you don't miss it. So you said you saw the ball, and 5 minutes later, you were at Gilbert and the Beeline?
No. So we were 5 minutes. I would say the Radisson is like 5 minutes away from that other intersection.
Right.
Yeah, you're going like 65, 70 miles an hour.
No, but what I'm saying is you traveled 5 minutes and ended up 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
okay. I'm understanding correctly then. So somehow...
We're driving.
Go ahead.
And sort of like we noticed all of a sudden, silver car's gone. That was the car that was in front of us.
Okay.
Where the fuck did that go? And then we looked down at the clock, and like, I don't remember how much time had passed. I just remember that it felt like it was 5 minutes. We turned around, and it took us 20 minutes to get back.
I remember you telling me the story. So what only felt like 5 minutes ended up placing you. I mean, that's several miles. That's many miles away. So ended up placing you a 30-minute drive away. And I remember when you told me that story, you felt like you had actually lost more like an hour, if I recall right.
It might have been.
And that's all Indian reservation in that area. It's Indian reservation and national park. Like, the Beeline cuts
right
through.
By Red Rock. That was like, that's like a holy mountain for them.
Oh, I didn't know Red Rock was holy. I didn't know that.
Well,
that
they're hiding it now, so I don't know how holy it was.
I don't like that. That's garbage. That's awesome. Did you ever... Any ever experiences like that? Did you ever remember anything more? Or is that it?
Never remembered anything.
Huh.
And when I talked to the others, they all still remember that event. Like, I still talk to them, but all of us are like, yeah, that was crazy. What the hell happened?
But they remember
I don't know, man.
The same as you, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty cool story. I like these time slip ones because I don't know how you explain that. I mean, I guess theoretically you could explain it away by saying that you, Cameron, maybe fell asleep at the wheel. Maybe a little bit of road hypnosis, something. But when you have more...
The only thing is, it would have to be like road hypnosis because there are turns in the road.
Yeah.
I would have driven right off the road.
Yep.
If I wasn't paying attention.
Well, it also doesn't explain how every single one of your passengers also missed that.
Also. Yeah.
They would all have to have, like, totally zoned out at exactly the same time that you did. Which is weird, too, all by itself. That's really strange. Yeah.
We're talking about a bunch of high schoolers, you know.
Yeah.
Things happen, but usually not all at once.
Well, what time was it?
An hour.
What time of day was it?
So it was dusk.
Okay.
Kind of, when we were headed towards Rye, before we realized, shit, this is a longer drive than I remember. So it was dusk when we were going up there. It was pretty dark by the time we turned around and headed back. So, I mean, there was no daylight.
Yeah.
I can't really tell you what time it was.
Okay. I think that's a really interesting story, and I like it. To me, those are the most interesting. You know, I'm not super into it when I hear about alien spacecraft, and when I hear about alien beings, I question that sometimes. Sometimes I take it seriously. It just depends on the story, I guess. Like, some of them I feel like, man, that's compelling.
This is one of those where I would not say this is a credible story. However, it's personal.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be skeptical of myself and the passengers I know.
Right. Exactly. And when you put it in terms like that, I mean, I feel, and maybe I'm a little bit naive, but I feel like most average human beings are not going to set out to purposely tell a lie like that. Most people are going to say what they believe happened. And if they believe that it happened that way, then that speaks to that something happened. And
none of us talk about it.
Oh, really?
Because we don't know what happened.
There's nothing to really say, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Man. All right. Here's one. I'm going to send you a link first. I'm going to read. There's a story that goes with that picture. Okay. This is from. Oh, son of a bitch! I didn't write down the name again.
This post may contain. What?
Oh, don't worry. You can open it. It's fine.
What the fuck? I also can't open it.
What?
Yeah, I click on it and nothing happens. It's almost like I'm clicking on a picture.
Oh, damn it.
Let me try opening it on the computer.
This story comes from Redditor Sweet Art of I. And I did have that written down at one time, and it got deleted. Sweet Art of I. All right. This person says, when I was young, the neighborhood kids used to play dark hide and seek or dark capture the flag, often pretty late at night. Our parents were okay with it as long as we didn't leave the neighborhood. He says in parentheses, it was the early 90s. We were basically thrown out of the house on the weekends. Yes, I remember that. That's exactly what happened. Don't come home, is what we were told. Anyway, one night after the game was over and everyone had gone home, my stepsister and I were hanging out in our front yard, just sitting on one of those green cable boxes, talking. At one point, she stops talking and points into the sky and asks about a light in the sky. I turn and look and see it myself. The light was faint blue and was brighter and bigger than the stars around it. And he meant stars. It was moving in ways that seemed impossible, and it became aware we were looking at it as soon as I locked eyes on it. I don't know how to describe that I know that. It was just this immediate feeling that it was looking right back at us. Suddenly, the light moved towards us, almost in a blink of an eye. It went from being roughly double the size of a star in the sky to as bright as an airplane or helicopter searchlight instantly. There was no sound, and the light didn't illuminate the surrounding area, which gave it a weird feeling.
It's one of those Mercury engines.
Mm-hmm. I tried to say something to my sister, but I found myself unable to speak, and I could suddenly barely move. I just managed turning my head to see my sister looking very scared, also unable to speak or move. I thought I heard a noise and the light started shining on me, which made me turn my head back towards the object, and then I felt a piercing light basically blind me. I was like bathed in the blue light. After this, things get a bit hazy, like I was meant to not remember it, even though certain moments are as plain as any memory from that time. I was in a place that was mostly dark, but there were lights that seemed to hover by themselves, with no visible technology, pole, etc., holding them up. I don't know if I was laying down or standing up because there was a feeling of no gravity or downward force in any direction. I remember interacting with an entity that was human-esque, but seemed to be different. Like a beautiful person, but they had no male or female characteristics. Completely androgynous, but with very symmetrical and smooth appearance to the face and body. Otherwise, very human-looking. They, quote-unquote, talked to me, but I was acutely aware that it was in my head and not out loud. It was like moments of being conscious with moments of haziness in between. I don't know how to describe it. I was aware that they were doing things to me, but I don't remember what. But I do distinctly remember a piercing device they inserted just behind my ear on my right side. It went pretty deep, but it didn't hurt. It just felt almost itchy for a second, and then they told me they were taking a sample and depositing something that would allow them to remotely monitor me for some time. They explained that this was not the first time they had done this to me specifically, and that they would continue to do so throughout my life, and that there were literally thousands of people they were doing this to. It was a scientific study of some kind that they tried to explain to me, but I honestly don't remember the purpose. I was able to ask them a few other things in the moments of being conscious, like where my sister was, and they explained she was having the same thing done to her. I asked them point blank if they were aliens, and they found it humorous, and told me they were humans from the future. But I got the distinct feeling that this wasn't the truth. Again, I don't know how to describe why I thought this. It was just a different feeling when they told me this versus the other things they were saying. It felt like a lie or simplification of some kind. After some time of being out of it again, I became aware that my body was bathed in blue light again, and the darkness started to recede, and I was able to see the stars in the sky again. I don't know how long it was before I finally understood where I was, but at some point I sort of came to and realized I was sitting on the grass next to my sister in the neighbor's yard about 50 to 60 feet from the original spot. My sister came to almost at the same time. We both immediately looked at each other and then to the sky, and the light was gone, but the sun was coming up. It was then we realized it had been hours. We didn't really talk about what happened. We just felt the need to go inside and go to bed, quote, before we got in trouble, unquote. It was years later before I ever spoke to my sister about that night, and she remembers much less than I do. She remembers seeing the light, being blinded by it, and then feeling weird and then waking up beside me. To this day, she has explained it away by us seeing a helicopter in the sky and just falling asleep because we were tired. She won't discuss it beyond that. I honestly had forgotten about this until about 2 years ago when my wife mentioned that I had a spot behind my right ear that kind of looked like a burn mark or a scar, but also kind of like a pimple or a mole. She likes to pop things, and she was dying to let her try to pop it. When she reminded me of it, the memories of the event flooded back into my head, and I was a bit emotional, but agreed to let her mess with it. She's tried to pop it, but says nothing comes out. It's still there and looks exactly as she describes it, kind of like a mole, but also kind of like a scar. I've had MRIs and other scans throughout the years, but nothing has ever shown up, so I have no idea what it is or if anything is inside there. I try not to think of it now because although I wasn't scared at the time, it's unnerving to think about now. That's my story as honestly as I remember it. And then, because other Redditors asked him, hey, show us the bump, show us, he actually took pictures, and that's the link that I sent you, is pictures of...
I did see it.
Oh, you got to see it? It opened?
Mm-hmm. It opened on my computer through my phone.
And
but just not on my phone.
So it looks a lot like a pimple, and there's like what looks like a little whitehead on it. He explains later... He goes, I know that there's that white thing there that looks like a whitehead. He goes, it's like a hair, and it's just reflecting in the light. He goes, I apologize. I've tried to take a lot of different pictures, and it always looks like that. But he goes, it's. I promise, it's not anything that can be popped. It doesn't look the same in real life. But it does. It's this little raised bump. And it could be scar tissue. It looks like it could be maybe a little lipoma right behind his ear. And I feel like the ear is a spot... The ear and the nose are spots that get reported as being where chips end up a lot of times. Have you heard? What is your sense of that?
Easy access to the brain.
I mean, yeah. For sure.
I don't know. Do you think it's like when you tag an animal and let it go?
Maybe. I will say, from a medical standpoint, stuff... So, like, okay, I have experienced this myself, and I have a patient who's experienced this. She had stitches done on one side of her right leg. So on the outer portion of her right leg, she had something sewed together. It was for, I think, like some kind of graft procedure. I don't remember exactly what it was she had done, but there were a lot of stitches. And when she had the stitches removed, a few of them were under the skin and kind of got missed, but she could feel them. She could feel them under her skin. And over the years, they've sort of slowly migrated, and now she can feel them on her inner thigh. So they moved from outer thigh to inner thigh, and she can tell that they're there because her skin is getting thinner, and she can kind of see like the filaments underneath her skin. And there are other examples of like BBs. You know, the body will naturally sort of create walls. Like they'll sort of build these little cocoons around foreign objects in the body. So like with like white blood cells and different kinds of cells will sort of attack this thing, and if they can't kill it, they'll surround it so that it doesn't interact with the rest of the body anymore. And that stuff can end up looking very, very different than how it was when it first entered the body. So sometimes, like, if people in motorcycle accidents get a lot of road rash and they've got dirt debris that ends up in the wound and it scars over that dirt debris will stay there in the body and sometimes can move around. I've got a spot just above my butt that didn't used to be there. It used to be somewhere else. and it's slowly been moving over time, and I have to track it periodically to like figure out where it's gone. So I will say that is not totally unusual for that to happen. Like, that's kind of a known thing. But those, most of those stories I have ever heard are in the arms and the legs, like other places of the body where you tend to get these kinds of injuries and things, but not in the nose, not behind the ear. I feel like those are fairly protected areas that you don't get a lot of trauma to usually.
I don't know. So, like I said, I feel like some of them are human. So if it is somebody from the future, well, okay. Nothing we can do about that. Time has told us that it's, we won't know until it is the future.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them I think are alien. I just think that it's really hard to sort out which ones are which.
Yeah. I think I agree. So you think that that's a psyop to hide...
Not this story. This story could be real.
Okay. But you think most stories of UFOs and UFO disclosure from the government is some kind of psyop so that the government can continue to experiment and do different things?
Yes. On their own aircraft and people.
Yeah.
On their own aircraft and people, and I feel like in some cases it's just a psyop so that they can control information.
Yeah.
That it's not necessarily, maybe it wasn't them, but they're going to say it was UFO because either it'll be disregarded or it'll be lumped into this category as something that cannot be solved.
Mm-hmm. Or something that can be easily dismissed. I have one...
Like, oh, yeah, that wasn't us. That was aliens.
Here's...
As easy as that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's easier to hide in plain sight when you have a lot of other stuff to hide behind. There is one that I really thought was very interesting, and our stupid... I'm going to send you this link. So on Paranormal Caught on Camera, which is one of my most favorite shows to watch, every now and then they have video, very compelling, interesting video of what I might have considered like a flare, but that moves in very strange ways. And they have these glowing light objects that sort of come together, they flow apart, they dance around each other, and sometimes there's smaller objects that come out of these dancing lights. And I don't know if this is going to work or not. And I have always found those to be extremely compelling. I love watching those because I really don't know what they are. Like, at first glance, yeah, they look like flares, but then the way that they move doesn't seem like flares at all. So I just sent you this link. I don't know if you're going to be able to open it. Oh, that's not even the one. All right. Hold on. That's a different one. Don't open that one.
Phoenix UFO mystery solved.
So that was...
what are those lights?
Oh, God damn it. This one is the one that we really want. So, that one, the first one that I sent you was at it was also considered a Phoenix Light kind of event. It was at a popular, like some high school football game, and a bunch of people took a bunch of photos of it, and it was considered this big mystery. But then they were able to look at it, and they figured out that it was this night skydiving pyrotechnic routine. So this actual company of skydivers was practicing a routine, and they happened to have dived like right behind where this football game was, and a lot of people saw it and thought that they were UFOs because it was at night and all they saw were the lights. But it was actually this skydiving company, and that made me think, that's interesting. I wonder how often we're looking at lights and we think they're UFOs, but what they really are paragliders, people who are skydiving, that kind of thing. And the thing about Arizona is, it is a perfect environment for skydiving. There are no less than 13 skydiving companies in Arizona that I could Google. There are probably a heck of a lot more that are not able to be Googled. And they do all kinds of diving at all times of the day. Now, this video, this second one that I sent you, is amazing. I love it. And what I realized is that perspective is everything. When I first looked at that video, I thought we were looking at a shot of a person who had turned his camera directly above his head. I thought that the shot, I apologize, that he was looking at a shot straight at eye level out into the horizon. That's what I thought I was looking at. And as I watched it more, I realized what we were looking at was a shot directly above his head. And with the tree line, it kind of makes it look like it's out toward the horizon. It's pointed out to the horizon. And the way that these lights dance is spectacular. And it's just like several of the paranormal caught on camera videos that I've watched before in the past. All right. So it starts as two lights right next to each other. This is very loud.
It's just crazy. I never seen anything like that.
And it's just sitting there, kind of hovering in the sky, is what it looks like. And then after a few seconds, it splits. And it turns into 4 lights. And they look like 4 meteorites. And then there's 5. And then there's 6 of them. And then they move from being meteorites. And they turn into what looks like hovering little orbs. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they're dancing. And they're moving around in circles. They're moving apart. They're moving together. It's like this really beautiful choreographed dance. And the way that they're spinning and turning is not like the way that any aircraft can spin and turn. And sometimes they come together and then move apart again. And what we're actually looking at in this video is not UFOs. These are skydivers who have lit some specialty flares and are carrying these flares as they're falling through the sky. So we're not seeing these objects dancing around each other, moving up and down in space. We are seeing the bottoms of these skydivers moving from side to side in space as they're falling down. But because of the way that the camera is shot, you don't have any sort of landmarks to help you decode that, to help you figure out that that's what's going on. And then it just, whoop, the flare burns out, and then they're gone. It looks like they disappeared from space. But it just means that the flare burned out. I really love that video. That really helped me because I've seen these before and thought, man, that's definitely got to be UFOs because I've never seen flares behave that way. But once I realized, oh, these are skydivers and the perspective is different than what I am expecting, then I began to see it. And as they get lower and lower to the ground, you start to be able to see the parachutes reflected by the light of the flares. Anyway, I don't know if you were able to watch that at all.
It's still playing, but it's just dark now.
Okay. But yeah. I mean,
now you can see the parachutes.
Oh, you got it?
Yep. Some of these stories that require hypnotic regression, some of them really make my hair stand on end.
Really?
Right? So there's like the weird... Let's go into this. You said that you thought it was misidentification in some of them, that it might be sleep paralysis.
Yep.
How many of them did you see where they said that they saw a woman?
I don't know, to be honest, off the top of my head. Most of the time,
There was this video
they were little grays.
that I saw. Little grays, that's typical, but like what I saw was this entire video on these abductees where they were told that the image that was in front of them was implanted so that they could better cope with the existence of what was going on.
A screen memory?
And it was, it was a image of a woman who had black hair and super pale skin and was wearing all white.
Oh.
And how they remembered it is that her presence, although unnerving, was in a way kind of comforting. And that they could tell they weren't alone.
Okay.
I kind of feel like that goes into like the night terror territory.
And who do you think the woman is?
So if we're going spiritual on that, maybe it's Samadhi's wife.
Maman
Who knows?
Brigitte. You know, that came up for me too, was the idea that maybe people are getting fucked with. Like, maybe spirits are a little bit bored and people enter sleep paralysis and they're susceptible. And spirits are messing with people. And they appear in the way that the human mind is prepared to comprehend the situation. Or sometimes they appear in the way that the human mind is going to be the most terrified. Because I do think that there are some of these entities feed on the fear. I agree with that theory. I've heard it posited before by the Belief Hole brothers. I agree. I think that that's correct. Some of these spirits do that. And I have to wonder if, again, not in every instance, I do think some abduction stories do bear closer scrutiny because I think that there's something there. But a lot of them, I feel like these could have been fae. This could have been a sleep demon. This could have been, you know, an entity that's messing with them that appeared to them in that altered liminal space.
Here's a question: which one story that you feel above the others? You believe for abduction?
You know, honestly, the Travis Walton story. Like, the more that I read into it, and the more I'm trying to kind of debunk it, and I'm not able to debunk it, the more I think, man, this could be something. This could be something.
Me too, actually.
The Travis Walton story.
There was this instance where they were being interviewed by the police at the grounds where Travis was taken. And there were these people with, what is that called, where they monitor radiation?
Oh, yes, I know exactly. Those random dudes showed up and they were, damn it, and they had these little gizmos, these machines, and it would help them pick up if there was radiation or not. And it like beeps and squeaks and makes all of these really weird noises if there's radiation. Yeah.
Well, and so they were there, and one of Travis's friends approached them, and I guess they questioned him a little bit. He's like, "Well, I already told one of your people," like, and he was basically told to repeat.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "No, we're not really affiliated with them. Tell us your story." And he told it again. He said the whole story. He's like, "But who are you with? Don't worry, we're never here." And he never sees them again.
Well,
I feel like that might have actually been the same people that I blame for these other abduction cases. Like, this one wasn't them, and they were concerned, and they had a presence there.
They were investigating to collect data. I remember that, and actually, there is a great video interview of all of those guys on Paranormal Witness, which is, I think, a Discovery Channel show. I reviewed it, and they talk about that. And Travis Walton never saw those guys, but the sheriff saw them, the deputy sheriff saw them, and the dudes who were not abducted, so the other 6 loggers, were there and were interviewed by those guys. So they were interviewed and they were checking for radiation. They couldn't find radiation on their clothes, but then one of the guys was like, "Well, but we've been home and we've had showers since then. You know, would we still have radiation on us at that point?" And they said, "No, probably not." And they said, "But, you know, we've still got our helmets. Those were there that night. Do you want to measure those?" And the guys were like, "Yeah, let's measure those." So they pulled out their helmets, and the guys took their sensors over the helmets, and the helmets went nuts. The sensors went crazy because there was a ton of radiation still present on those helmets. And after that happened, those guys walked away. And you're right, they never saw those guys again. No one knew who they worked for. Even the sheriff in the interview reports, "I don't know who those guys were, because I don't know who they were affiliated with. They never identified themselves. They showed up, they did what they did, and then they were gone." And it was like a circus. So I think that maybe the sheriff and the deputy sheriff didn't have a chance to vet these guys because there was just people in and out all over the place. They had citizen volunteers. It was a media circus. Like, it was just a mess out there. So they never had an opportunity to really sit down and figure out who these guys were. But that was corroborated, not just by the people who were there for the kidnapping, but also by the police, who I find very credible. So that one, and there are things about that story that do give me pause and make me think, man, this could have been a really elaborate hoax. But then there's other parts that don't. And I don't want to get too much into this because I feel like we need to do our boots on the ground and talk to people. But there's a lot of really interesting things about that story in particular that I find difficulty explaining. I don't know how we explain some of the stuff that happened. And I've been trying.
And I want to say that I am excited to do that one because that one feels real.
Yeah.
That one feels like if there are aliens, that would be the one.
Mm-hmm.
There are stories like that one, but it's just like those little details that stand out to me. Like, hold on, there were government officials that were there investigating, and
well, they weren't dressed as
not
government
just shady
officials.
People in black that were following you for weeks on end, seeing what you would do. No. These people were investigating the grounds, and they were looking to confirm or deny something.
Yeah.
And they...
Okay, so we were having some technical difficulties with the microphone. I had tried a different adapter, and it got us almost 2 hours of recording before it finally started to not work. So I've switched to the other recording device. But, yeah, that was really interesting about the radiography, which is not how you say it, radiation investigation. All right, well, did you have any other stories of UFO abductions that you wanted to get into or talk about?
Oh, a Geiger counter.
Geiger counter.
That's what it is.
That's it.
But no, not really. I am excited to cover this next story because it is one of the more realer cases that I feel.
Yeah, there's a lot there that's very interesting. And there's a lot there that you could point to and say, there's no way that's real. But there's aspects of it that I can't... When I'm trying to find alternative theories, I can't work my way around some of these pieces.
Like maybe some of it is like flair added to get more attention.
Maybe.
But there's points of the story that they just stick out. They seem like it could be plausible, like that's what happened. These are their responses. This thing occurred. We had people in hazmat gear show up and use their Geiger counters, and we never figured out who they were with.
Nope. Not even the sheriffs or the deputies.
And the fact that the backlash was just so widespread, everybody was sure they killed this guy.
Yeah. They thought that they were going away for murder. Like there was no doubt in anyone's mind that Travis Walton was dead. There wasn't. The only people who thought he might maybe still be alive were his friends, and even they weren't sure. They thought he might be dead. Like, that's what kills me, is they didn't know.
He could have been vaporized for all they knew.
Yeah. Ugh, man, that's just the coolest story. Now, again, dear listener, I can't promise exactly when we're going to do that one because we want to do it right. So it may be a little while before we get to that. But I do think that we're going to, instead of deciding the week before, we're going to start planning some of these episodes out, and we'll give ourselves a little bit more time to do research about the ones that we really like and be a little bit better prepared. But I think, really nice overview and introduction to the whole alien abduction thing, and we've said our piece and what we believe. We still, I think both of us hold out hope that there is something out there that's real. Coming up for the next episode, Cameron and I have decided we want to do old-fashioned ghost stories. So, and maybe not old-fashioned. Maybe there's all manner of different and strange kind of ghost stories are out there. So that's the episode that we're going to do, ghost stories. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for hanging with us as we got through this episode. Cameron?
And once again, Arizona is a hotspot. So I will not be doing boots on the ground. However, I will be talking about Venture. I'll be talking about Jerome. I'll be talking about Tombstone.
Bisbee. Keep Bisbee weird. I think that's one of their mottos. Man, there was a fire out there. A couple of the oldest stores on the main strip burned down.
Really?
Yeah, within the last few days.
So there's going to be renovations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We should do, in honor of the Old South, we should do local ghost stories. Yeah, I'll do some Bisbee stories in honor of Bisbee. And let's do it.
I feel like with renovations, there's going to be new ghost stories coming up here soon.
Hell yeah. But they're still, like, honestly, they were still putting out the flames when I saw it on the news the other day. So I'm sure that that's a ways in the future.
All right.
All right, then. All right. Good. Thanks for joining us for The Wandering Crow. Mm-hmm. It's crazy, the stuff that you can get. Vegetables and produce that I've never heard of or seen before. All kinds of weird herbs and stuff that I don't know what they actually are because they're all in a different language that I don't speak. So I'm just sort of questioning, like guessing. Like, I think maybe this could be this, but for all I know, it's freaking dried and crushed goat penis. Like, I don't know. There's tons of it. And the teas. Oh my gosh. So many kinds of tea. Mm-hmm. So many good teas. Oh, and the fish. Oh, the best fish. So good.
You can't say that it's not fresh because it's alive right there.
Right there. It's such good stuff. I forgot about